Hello, everyone, and welcome. Yes, my name is Arafire. Welcome to another episode of All Talk No Shock, where I am joined by friend of the channel, Sam from Samsformers. Sam, thanks for coming along this evening.
Hi, mate. Thanks for having me.
Sam is here with me this evening as we're going to talk around AI Transformers, in particular, Robosen, or self-transforming Transformers. As technology has gone on and advanced, we are getting a lot more technology in our toys, in our collections. Robosen has been front and center of that, very much at events, showcasing what can be achieved with high-tech engineering. And that's what we're going to talk through today. So, Sam, you are partial to a Robosen figure in particular. Would you like to talk through the ones that you've got?
I am indeed. Yeah, one is actually moving as we speak. Um, he's just
Do that.
decided to, to start moving. Um, I am. I have a few of them. I've got Bumblebee, as you see. I have Grimlock, who's here. You may be able to just see him
There he
just in
is.
the background. And I have the Prime, who is downstairs. And also have the stand that he comes on, the sort of light up. Um, Bluetooth controlled, voice controlled stand, because he
Mhm.
doesn't. These other guys will stand on their own unpowered, but he won't.
Yeah.
So that is one improvement they've made since that one is that their joints or motors, I suppose, hold up better without power. They'll
I mean,
they'll fall over if you touch them. Well, if you
yeah,
push them, but they will stand quite
they
safely.
stand on their own accord. Yeah,
Yeah,
because I've
yeah,
been the
yeah,
same because I've had for a brief time the Bumblebee myself, and yeah, you're right.
yeah,
When he's in power down mode, he's in effectively crouching.
yeah,
But the first question we're going to talk about for this evening, for really anyone who hasn't experienced Roboson, because I'm sure you will get people out there saying they want toys, they want them to have in their hand. What is
yeah.
the appeal of Roboson or self-transforming Transformers?
Self-transforming Transformers for me is so I'd have to do it. That's one appeal. I'm not the biggest transforming person. I tend not to do it on a lot of my figures. But I think the appeal for the appeal of Robeson to me is they're just cool. It's the wow factor. I don't think I've seen anyone at a show or at my house when I've shown them one of these who isn't impressed, even who doesn't even know what Transformers are. And that's not many people. Most people know them, but everyone I've showed it to is just that's awesome. And everyone at a show I've been at, you just see these crowds of people just looking at them, going, "That's childhood for us, real, isn't it? It's come to
Yeah.
life, literally come to life."
First time I saw him was actually the Bumblebee. Well, I obviously seen the Prime because the Prime being the older figure, the first one that they did,
Yeah,
and seeing the Bumblebee for the first time get up unaided.
yep.
That's what wowed me. That's what led me to get the Bumblebee. Even though as soon as I did a quick video on my channel on it, someone said to me, "It doesn't even transform. What's the point?" And I just you can't help some people. It's got great functionality for what it does. Now, yes, the Bumblebee doesn't transform, but for what it achieves and the characteristic that it has, it's still tremendous. But saying
Yeah,
that, when Optimus Prime was first unveiled, sounding like Peter Cullen, well, it is Peter Cullen,
yep.
and transforming around, driving around, how could you not like it? How could you not be impressed?
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think going back to it doesn't transform as in the Bumblebee. I'm kind of like you.
Oh,
Sorry, he's
he
just
heard you.
talking. Yeah. Oh dear. I originally, when they released this one, was like, no, I'm not really interested in that. It doesn't. The transforming part at that point was the main biggest gimmick, I think.
Yeah.
And I always thought the Bumblebee looked cool. Um, but when I saw it the last time at the shot at the store, that I think when we both saw it together, and I think it was similar to me when it stood up on its own, and he did a few other bits. It, the Bumblebees, I think, is the most. Sorry, every time I say its name, um, it's the most fun.
Have to call him Badassatron.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Um, I think he's the most fun as a robot, as in, um, forget that it's a transformer, but just as a robot, I think it seems the most fun. Um,
I'd agree with that.
but when you see the other two transform, I think the first time when I opened the Prime. and you see it do it, and it transforms as close to the G1 toy as you're gonna get, uh, and it makes the sound. There's just something about that you just. I sometimes just do it because I don't do a heck of a lot with these. They're on a cabinet in my living room on display, but I do sometimes just turn it on and just get it to transform because it's cool.
Yeah.
There's not another word for it, and it'll come onto him.
It's
But
something to be mesmerized about, isn't it?
it
When you
is,
because you're almost watching it perform for you, whereas
yeah,
these are toys for you to handle and enjoy, and that's fine. You can do that, but that's not what the Robosen in particular or self-transforming transformers are going in for. They're going in to be a gimmick that can effectively dance for you. That's kind of what
yeah,
it is. But I
yeah.
take your point around Bumblebee because yeah, we both saw it at the Transformer store in South London where it just had a lot of charm to it. That had a lot of
That's a good
appeal.
word.
So, of course, like you say, we were at the Transformer store in South London, and their latest offering, Robosen, was the ginormous Megatron that was there. And ginormous really is the word. Watching Sixo's review of it
Yeah,
at the time, it's the same size as the Ark, and that's
huge.
yeah unreal. But watching that and what it can do, um, that's pretty special. But its size is just
Yeah.
it dwarfs anything that's come before it. And Grimlock's hardly small.
Yes, it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. Um, I think it's too big.
Maybe.
It's a criticism. I've said it to the Robosen people. Not that they really care what I say, but I have said that to them. In that it's too big because it scales with the. I got to get the words right. The Elite's the one I've got, and they call it anyway. It doesn't matter. The big one, they've
The bigger one, yeah.
scaled the Megatron with the bigger Prime, and they don't make the bigger Prime anymore.
Yeah.
And it seems odd that they did that because you can't really scale these because I had all three recently stood up just for a photograph, and Bumblebee it doesn't scale with Grimlock. He's smaller, so it kind of works, but he's nowhere near as small as what he in if real true scale.
What he should be, yeah, he
Yeah,
should be worlds apart, shouldn't it?
of course. But I wouldn't. Well, I wouldn't. It would look silly, I think, having that Megatron stood next to the Elite Prime that I've got, um,
Mm.
because it is way too big, and I'm just surprised they did that and didn't build it to scale with the new one, the smaller one. Um,
It's unusual, isn't it? Because I this is where we've got to be a little bit careful of timelines because the first prime was their larger prime, and I think the first criticism, for lack of a term, and this isn't to take shots at Robertson in any way, but the
no,
criticism
no,
that was launched at them was it's a fair bit expensive, so they scaled it down to this elite version. It was smaller, everything was
yeah,
reduced, and it came out a wee bit cheaper. Fine, but as you rightly say, unless Megatron was already well in the works at that point, and it may have been,
mhm.
um, nothing else is kind of scaling with it. Saying that, of course, how does Grimlock scale with the smaller Prime?
I think it's about right,
Yeah.
and it's all a little bit. What do we know about making giant robots? But so you had Flagship Prime, big one. You've got Elite Prime, which is the smaller one. Grimlock is under the Flagship brand, but it's called Flagship Grimlock, but that works with the Elite Prime in
The smaller
size wise, I
Prime.
think.
Yes.
And in Megatron, I can't remember if it's Flagship or what they call it. Um, Now it may be that they can't make it smaller to do what they wanted. I mean, I assume motors, bits are all a certain size, so to
Mm-hmm.
make it do what they wanted and stand up and be strong, maybe it had to be that size. But maybe maybe they would scale it down, do the same. That would be interesting. If they
Yeah.
scaled it down and did an elite version Megatron, I'd buy that, I think, because
Yeah,
work.
it looks so good, doesn't it? We've seen it with all of its accessories, the cannon, the transformation into the tank looks tremendous, and of course you can drive it. I mean, all of this it sounds like a great sales pitch, which kind of goes on to my next point. question really for you, Sam, as you've got as many Robosons as anyone I know. What would you say to people who haven't bought Robosen, people who maybe are interested or inquisitive about it? What would you say to give it a go? Because it's not the cheapest
It's not.
expenditure, is it?
It's not. It's expensive. Um, I'll be honest and open. Every time I've bought one, there's been an offer. Because of a show, an offer at a show or
Mm-hmm.
a
A
Black Friday
promotional
deal.
event.
Yeah. Um, that's not to say that I wouldn't have bought it anyway, but it certainly helps. Well, I'll be brutally honest with you. The Grimlock, which is the most expensive one, at full price, I don't think I would have bought it. But at the price that it was at the show, the deal of the day, um, it made it about right. No, it made it more palatable for me to buy it, try it out, go and see it in the flesh. Because videos don't do it justice, pictures don't do them justice. Um, the promotional stuff that they do, it looks great, doesn't do it justice even to that. Until you've seen it on a table and see it work in front of you, I think I think you'd be hard pressed anyone to say they wouldn't want one. Now, that's easy to say, but wanting one and getting one is a big difference, isn't it?
I think at that point that you just mentioned, it's the because it was the same with me. It's seeing it in front of your eyes. That's when the magic comes through. It's it's when you're looking at what technology can do and how it's. And I think first time I really saw it was in the hall at TF Nation, and that in itself was quite a unique setting because you're looking at
Yeah,
toys
yeah,
and are generally just stoic figures sitting on your collection that won't do anything unless you pick them up. And even so, if you're looking for original G1s, they certainly look like they've had better days.
yep,
They're wearing, they're getting old. Yet in the same setting, the same hall at TF Nation, there's this big shiny Grimlock, and it's very shiny, transforming and sounding like Greg Berger.
yep,
And that's when you're hit with the lights and the fanfare, and it's like,
yeah,
wow, that's incredible.
yeah.
But I think you say like you have got to see it in the flesh to really
Mm.
experience it, and then you decide if you want to take it home with you.
I bought Prime and Grimlock at TF Nation.
Both at the
Um,
same time.
no, no, one each
Well,
year.
years apart.
Yeah, so
I was going to say that's
2020.
an expensive year.
Yeah, no, yeah, right. 2023. So 2023, I went there and I knew that they were doing I knew they were there and they were doing a panel. And that's when they had them all on the stage in the big room and they had just announced they just released Grimlock, I believe. You couldn't it was pre-order, so it wasn't even out yet,
So
but they
it
had the
wasn't. It
demo.
wasn't there, was it? Yeah.
Yeah, they had it
Oh,
on
it
they
was
had
there.
it, but you couldn't order it and take it away with you.
You
It was
couldn't
sort
take
of
it with you. That was
performance.
it. You got it
Yeah.
like a few days or weeks later.
Yeah, and obviously they had the Prime there, and I was all weekend going. Well, when I arrived, I went, if it was for X amount of money, I would go get it. If because I knew there'd be an offer on because I think they'd put something up on social media or whatever, and I thought if it's X, I'll go for that. And it was just above X, not a lot, a little bit above X, and I walked past that about 20 times that day. And eventually, by about 4 o'clock on the Saturday afternoon, I went in, and of course you couldn't take it with you. You just ordered it on their iPad, and then it was
Yeah.
delivered because they didn't have any stock there. So I did that, and then this year at TFN again, obviously Grimlock was there. Megatron was the big reveal because that was the new one. Um, and Greg Berger was there as well with Robosen. I think they sponsored him or something to
Indeed, they
arrive.
did.
Um, and not that that made the decision, but it kind of it built the excitement because you get to meet someone like him and say hello to him and get a photograph and you're like, oh, that's and in my head before that I'd got there, I thought, oh, if I could get him to sign it, then I would definitely buy one. But they didn't have them there anyway, so I couldn't do that.
Mm.
But the same thing happened again. There was an offer that made it, and all right, I could give that a go. And again, I did the same thing as the year before. I did about 20 laps of that blooming room, like everyone does. And I kept looking at it and I kept looking at it. And then I eventually went,
Don't make
Yeah.
it sound like you were so hard pressed because I saw you when you bought it and you had a Cheshire Cat grin
Oh,
on your face
absolutely. Don't
and you
get me
were
wrong.
so pleased with yourself.
I was, but it took me.
Don't listen to him, ladies and gentlemen. He's fooling
No.
you. I'm
Um,
with you on that. I mean,
yeah.
I'm a masterpiece collector. Well, and to be honest, I was the same when we were at the Transformers store. And I'll quickly go on to this point. When we
Yep.
saw it, didn't buy anything there and then, but they were doing a Black Friday sale,
Yep.
and I waited till the last possible day
Yeah.
to do it, and it was as much me just arguing with myself, but
Yep.
I decided to go for it. And I took a bit of a plunge. And when I got it, it's real premium feel when you get it in your
Yes.
hands, you take it out of the box, and it's just like, oh, this feels a bit special when it comes in this lovely
It's beautiful.
Transformers authentic casing. You do have to work up the courage for it, but that magic you will see on display will be in your home, will be in your
Yeah.
collection.
Just on the packaging, Grimlock, the box talks to you when you open it.
The box
So
does.
yeah, so it's in an in an outer cake box, and then it's got the foam casing, and it opens middle out,
All right.
and so it's got clips and everything, like they do. And when you open one side, I can't remember which side it is. Greg Berger talks to you
No
and
way.
says
Nice.
something like "me Grimlock," whatever he says. It's just little things like that when
Yeah.
and and how well they're packaged. And they come, they come with accessories. Well, the Grimlock does.
Yeah.
And not that I don't take any of them out of the box, but it comes with extra bits, and it's just, yeah, they're very well put together.
This is where I feel it needs to be the most premium of premium. It's
Hmm.
not something that, like a fan's toys figure. It's not something you fiddle around with and break. Or these are very specialist, very niche, and
Yeah.
I don't think in many ways it can be beaten. How do you beat something that's well past masterpiece scale, that self transforms and sounds like the original voice actors?
Yeah.
We've had Cullen do Prime, Frank Welker do
Hmm.
Megatron, Greg Berger do Grimlock. It's got all of that authenticity behind it to make it a statement piece, and this
Hmm.
it's so different to anything else we've had. When you consider the last big wow thing was probably HasLab Unicron, which
Yeah.
was a big wow thing,
And it is a
which
wow. Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
statement we haven't had this before, but still, it was a transformer like we've got.
Yeah.
In many ways, just considerably bigger through a different method we're not used to. But then Robosen come along and really changed the rule book. Right. So moving on to the next question, Sam, why do you like the ones you have? The ones that the three or so that you've got, what made you go for them? And what distinct differences do they have, or similarities do they have amongst each other?
Um, I think if I go in order of where I got them, Prime to me is self-explanatory. It's awesome. It's Prime. It's G1 Prime to a T, in its as much as it can look, like the G1 cartoon. It transforms like the cartoon and the toy. It sounds like it, obviously. And it for me, that Prime is just that's the one I would tell people to get if they were a G1 Transformers fan. Because I think it just has that. I do. I smile in a different way than I do with the others because
Yeah.
it's just got that it about it. It's just Optimus Prime, and I think that's why. Um, Grimlock is spectacular, as in they have nailed it in its G1 style. Well, style, design. Um, it's right off the cartoon. It's come straight off the screen. It looks perfect. Again, they got that transformation like the toy, pretty much, didn't they? It's pretty much nailed on
It's
to how,
spot on, isn't it?
yeah. It looks perfect in both modes.
Yeah.
It hasn't sacrificed in either mode. It just, yeah, I think that's the most impressive one, for a G1 fan, in my
Maybe it's a
opinion.
completeness.
There you go. That's the better way of saying it. It's got everything. And the fact
Mm.
it walks it walks in both modes. You know, it walks in dinosaur and in robot, which is just incredibly clever. Bumblebee is just fun. It looks pretty cool. You know, he's a cool looking. He looks like the G1 cartoon. I think he's fun. I think I was thinking about it the other day. On when I had it around my mum's and I was showing them, and we're doing some of the dancing, or it was doing whatever. It felt like the cartoon because he's that kind of in my opinion, he's that fun
He's
kid.
happy-go-lucky character.
Yeah, and this feels like it. I think the Bumblebee feels like that. So I think each one has a very distinct plus point for me. And then if I look at Megatron, I don't have it, but from what I've seen of it, I think that has the wow factor of the robot. I think it's the most impressive looking robot. Um, and it feels like Megatron. It feels scary. It feels like it'd punch you, you know, in a
Yeah,
sense.
I
And
don't disagree.
yeah, and the it's just little bits on the Megatron with the purple lights and little bits like that. You can see where they've improved. Well, let's say improved, that might not be the right way, but added some more to it. It just seems that next step up.
I'd like to think for all of the ones that they've released, they they're Robosen or whoever being for self-transforming Transformers or AI in Transformers going forward, but Robosen in this case, they have all of the characters lined out and they say, what do we want to achieve? What's their
Yeah.
core? What's their thing that
Yep.
must come across? And as you say, Prime's got to have that kind of meeting your hero kind of thing. You've got to have
Yep.
that,
Yeah.
as you say, you smile to it a little bit differently as you do the others because Prime is Prime and it sounds
Yep.
like Prime and it looks like Prime.
Yep.
Grimlock is ticking as many boxes as it possibly can and nothing sacrificed because he's as good in robot mode as he is in Dino mode. The Bumblebee side, it's that exactly what the character's personality was in the cartoon has come through in that figure.
Yeah.
Is that there is, and
Yes.
I can say that because I got that with my one. When you hear that voice, he's dancing. You don't. Grimlock's not going to dance, and that Megatron certainly isn't going to dance.
No,
But
no, no, no.
Bumblebee is, and
Yeah.
you can't help but find it adorable.
He's a
Um,
cheeky robot in a way. Yeah.
yeah, and that's his kind of that's his core.
Arguably could be the most impressive in a way is the trailer. Purely
Well, I
for
was going to come on to that, but go for it.
yeah, just because of pure size. The thing's
Massive.
ginormous. And how it transforms, stands up, bends back on itself. It's it's ridiculously big. It's
And
crazy.
we should point out this is for flagship Prime,
Flagship.
isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
The bigger one only,
yeah.
and stock is quite limited because we know people have been trying to track it down, and Robosen have struggled to. Well, with them not making a big Prime anymore, they're not making presumably some
No,
of the trainers.
if they scaled that down to fit, because it won't fit with the smaller one, I would be interested. But that's yeah. So if you're listening, Roberson, can you make a smaller trailer, please?
Well, parking the trailer, literally and figuratively.
Mhm.
What would you like to see Robeson in particular, but anyone? But let's stick with Robeson because we have done throughout the video. What would you like
Yep.
to see Robeson do next? There is talk of two figures being released in 2025.
Yeah.
What
I
would you like it to be?
Soundwave.
It's been heavily rumored, hasn't it?
Hmm. I think it.
Into
I
a
think they.
cassette,
Yes,
an old 80s cassette.
and oh, it'd have to be. And I think they could. To me, that's because Soundwave is blocky in it, as in there's lots of square bits. I think they could do that. And if it had a speaker in it and it was an MP3 player or a Bluetooth
Yeah,
speaker, I think it has to be that. If they
yeah.
don't, they'll have missed a trick. How they do it, and this is me saying like I know how to make robots. How they do if because again, you want it to transform like the toy. You want those legs, yes, exactly. How do they get those legs from a block to open up and stand up would be impressive if they can.
If that
I
bumblebee can get itself up from lying down flat on its face,
Yeah, so it
then Soundwave's
then
legs can come down and sort of
push itself
stilt
up.
itself up. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
I just
Yeah, I think
yeah,
it could.
I think as a speaker, it makes sense. Because how cool would that be of just having a 80s style looking cassette tape, Bluetooth to your phone, playing music, and then it can transform into a robot. I don't know. I don't think, and I've spoken to and people have said if they do Soundwave, I'm in. And I think that's one that a lot of people might go, I can't say no to that. Um,
He's a big enough character. It's one of the fabled big six characters,
yep,
isn't it? You sync your phone to it, don't you? You have the app on your phone
yeah,
to
yeah.
connect it. So
And, and the stand has got sound and lights. So
yeah,
they've already done it in one thing, so that they must be able to. And I'd be amazed if it's not that one. And I think the other one they'll do, well, I would if it was me, would be Woody to go with Buzz Lightyear.
true. Yeah, because Buzz Lightyear is going to looking incredible as
I
well.
mean, I'm even tempted. I
Mm.
wouldn't because it's quite a lot of money, but it looks spectacular.
Does
And
it look a bit too lifelike?
it's a bit
when
weird,
you
isn't it?
see
I
it
think
when
yeah,
you see
yeah,
it walking around, and it's just like, oh
yeah,
my god, it's actually alive.
yeah.
But it does look so impressive,
Mm,
like how they do this stuff. But keeping it on Transformers, because you're right, because they'll probably get two figures out in a year. I can't see it being two Transformers. I can see one Transformer, and I can see a Woody or something to go along with Buzz in one
yeah,
form or another. Um, there was talk, and we have seen it, I think, in a very,
we have.
very early form
Yeah,
of Scrapper
yeah.
Constructicons.
But the
But
scrapper, you were right.
Scrapper,
That looked quite far along, didn't it? That looked like it was
that
something
was
working.
quite a while ago, wasn't it?
They, I mean,
You know what we're going to say.
yeah. I
If you could
mean,
do a Scrapper, how far are you going with this? How big are you going with this? How
I know.
green are you going with this?
Can you imagine if they could get them to go together
I,
and
I'm
it
not
work?
ruling anything out. I'm not ruling anything out.
I again, this is me knowing obviously all this stuff about robots, but I don't know how you do it. How could you get plug one into another and then it control itself?
How would you stand? You almost couldn't. You couldn't stand up on its own. You'd have to assemble it together. Like
Or would
Scrapper
you?
would
That's
Scrapper would
that.
go into
Yeah.
his leg mode. But think of it, there's six bots for God's sake. You can't have Scrapper going leg mode and then expect long haul to sort of magically go, all right, me next, and he jumps up and he just
No.
kind of stands up. You'd have to kind of mount him, and then he would kind of latch and attach,
Or if they assembled themselves face down and
and
then
it kind of pushes
pushed
itself up.
itself up, which we've seen Bumblebee Prime do. They can
Be
do push
about that
ups.
big.
Yeah. I don't. I
I don't want
mean,
to see that thing getting up in my house.
that
I'd be
would be
terrible.
scary.
I'll just give him the house. I'll run away.
The thing is, I don't know what would be your end game as a company like that because you've got a small market anyway, haven't you? I think.
Well, well, you say that. That comes on to the final point of
Okay.
saying, is this the evolution of collecting? And I sort of said this before, and I've tied this question around a lot to like statues and people who just can't be asked to flip their robots back and forward anymore and like them as display pieces. But is this a big evolution with all of the technology now?
The market for this is people would just buy one or two for statement pieces, and have to really be connected to the character. Um, I I can see myself not buying that Megatron because it's big, and I can think of enough reasons to go, do you know what? I'm not going to have that one. I bought Prime because it's Prime, as we said earlier. Mega Grimlock because it's just perfect, and Bumblebee, I'll be honest, because it was on an offer that made it not much more expensive than some of the more recent Fans Toys figures. And that I went, well, if I'd have paid that for a Fans Toys figure, a little bit more gives me something completely different. Um, I don't see in the long run this becoming replace someone collecting these instead of a Fans Toys collection, maybe for example.
The charm or the magic or the spectacularness of it is in the few. As soon as
Yeah,
you start having walls of it, it loses its charm.
it
It
does.
needs to be a centerpiece, a standalone of its own, of the character of your choice, or characters if you like a couple.
Yeah,
But you start having an entire season one cast. That's almost no different than what you're doing here.
yeah,
And what's the point of who's going to do that? Who's going to swap out and make that upgrade?
yeah. And I don't think they would. Because again, I think it's a small window or pool anyway of people that are going to buy these. So if they did a Robosen Beachcomber, I don't think anyone cares. Literally, no one cares.
Andy Gold cares.
Okay,
If you're
I
watching,
mean,
Andy, that's for you.
yeah, but they wouldn't make it, would they? Because who,
It's like saying, like, you know, reflector, hard head, you know, wild rider.
they're
These are
not gonna,
characters, but they're not gonna blur just because I
no,
see them off
yeah,
my shoulder. You know,
yeah,
yes, they're characters, but it's not Starscream, it's not Soundwave, it's not Grimlock.
yeah. I think they would do those big six. I think we might see a Soundwave and a Starscream, maybe. That would give you the six, wouldn't it? Is that the big six?
Bumblebee, Prime, Grimlock, Megatron, Soundwave, Starscream.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'll
You
give you
could
three of each.
maybe you could squeeze Shockwave into it.
I don't know if
But
it's
then
big enough
you're kind of
character.
going fringe, aren't you? You're going to do
Yeah,
Shockwave, Ultra Magnus, Rodimus,
I
maybe,
don't
but you're
think
not
they're
going to go
big
much
enough.
further.
Because a Starscream, if you think about you could do that. You could turn the jet into a robot.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
it's
have thought,
possible.
again, it keeps saying how much I know about making robots, but I could see that not being too much shape-wise, how you could probably do it.
For anyone who hasn't seen them and feels they are gimmicky or whatever, and I said when I had the Bumblebee and I did the video on it, you don't flip your collection back and forward all the time. I flip a few of these back and forward, but more or less they stay here. And if you've got a Bumblebee sitting on the shelf and he doesn't transform, fine. I've got a Galvatron here that I do not transform.
Yeah.
So, you know, what's the difference? And it's enjoyable. It's fun to kind of pick up and show off and be a bit of an event. And it's fun to be a kid again when the technology has
Oh,
taken on
yeah,
a leaps and
100%.
bounds.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think, and they are a gimmick. They are because you don't use them all the time. You don't turn it on every day and play with it. Well, some people might, but I mean, I don't. So there is a gimmick element to it, but that gimmick is blimmin' cool.
Is
Do you know what I mean?
what a
So
gimmick,
yeah,
self-transforming
exactly.
Transformers.
What a gimmick. And of course the bits that we haven't really mentioned, but you've got all I mean, the apps and all the actions that you can do, and you can program them. You can make your own actions, can't you? And do all that, which so there's another level of programming a robot, which I think would appeal to people as well,
Yeah.
to make a robot do what you want it to do, not just what they've preloaded for you. So there's that whole side of it. You
Feels a
can,
bit more personal that way, doesn't it?
yeah. I haven't tried this yet, but you can with the Bumblebee and the Prime, especially, you can sync them up. And I assume they do something together. And
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, there's an option that you can go into cinema mode, theater mode, and there's a solo like Bumblebee, or you can have Bumblebee and Prime. And I wonder on the Grimlock, is there a Grimlock and Prime option that they work together? Um,
That'd be quite cool. Nice little characteristics of the two.
yeah, which they must all work together because we saw that display where they had Grimlocks, Bumblebees, and Primes all doing a
All
synchronized
kind of.
performance.
So, thank you very much, Sam, for joining us today. Where can people find you? What's the best platform to find you on?
Well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed that. It was good fun. Instagram's the main platform for me. Samsformers on there. That's where I spend most of my time. I have to start a TikTok, which is quite fun. And that's Samsformers as well. More out of interest, but yeah, Instagram is the place where I spend most of my and post most of my photos and videos. So yeah, check it out.
You'll
Yeah,
go and check out Sam on there because he does some great stuff, always stuff to keep you entertained. Thanks very much for coming along, Sam, and thanks very much for watching. And as always, I will see you on the next one.